feel like it's when they put that redneck on speakerphone.
Mordecai.
Yeah,
or whatever
and
his
he's
name
like,
was.
yeah, and then they just laughed at him. I was like, this is a different movie, isn't it?
And donuts. We sell donuts.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Blood and Donuts. I am Tony.
And I'm Chris. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Here at the Blood and Donuts podcast, we'll start by sharing an overview, facts, and our first impressions. Then each of us will give our donut rating before we go into a scene-by-scene discussion full of spoilers. But don't worry, we'll let you know before that happens. Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell them how that rating system works?
So we rate our movies on a 1 through 13 donut scale. 1 through 4 is terrible. We are not going to recommend that to you. 5 through 8 is kind of like a mid-range. It's worth a rent if you have time. It's not terrible, but it's not great. A 9 through 12 is great. You'll definitely want to check out a 9 through 12. And Tony, 13's our baker's dozen tier. That's pretty rare, but it would be considered a masterpiece of a horror film and possibly one of the best of all time.
The Cabin in the Woods is a 2011 science fiction comedy horror film directed by Drew Goddard in his directorial debut, produced by Joss Whedon. The plot follows a group of college students who retreat to a remote cabin in the woods where they fall victim to a variety of monsters while technicians manipulate events from an underground facility.
Well, there it is. I didn't know if we were going to save that for the spoiler portion, but I guess it's kind of just the plot of the movie. Isn't it?
It is the plot of the movie,
But
yes.
man, it's so fun. It's really a funny movie. It makes me think of like Totally Killer recently that we've watched. That's just more focused on. I mean, it's got some horror elements in it, but it's more funny than scary to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It also, in the same vein as Scream, it exposes a lot of those tropes that are, you know what I mean? This is the whole reason for this film, but Scream, they played with that a little bit as well.
Yeah, you know, Scream kind of broke the fourth wall of like letting the viewer in on the, you know, what happens during a horror movie. And then this, you know, you could use this as like, this is what happens. This is why horror movies happen kind of thing. It's like well, I can't really say it right now, but it's really fun to watch the technicians down in the basement. They're controlling all these components. It's really fun.
You got Richard Jenkins and Bradford Whitley. Bradford Whitley, you know him from, he's Eric from Billy Madison. And
technically, shut up.
These delicious Triscuit crackers. Richard Jenkins, the dad from Step Brothers. Both of them were in a lot of things, but man, they nail this. The comedy is so well done, and they are my favorite parts of this movie.
Absolutely, far and away, and they got good chemistry too. Like it's like they've been working this job for years, and like they just been through it all together. And
it's like a 9 to 5 down in the trenches, and there's
so funny.
Oh, it's so good.
On speakerphone, aren't I? Oh my God, Mordecai! I can't believe it. It did it again.
You got Chris Hemsworth, who is in this. When you first saw this and you saw Chris Hemsworth, and you're like, well, hell, Thor's going to be there. What are they worried about? You know?
Yeah, so he's Thor. When does all that Avenger stuff? But this was kind of his first.
They say this is the breakout, but it kind of came out the same year as the Avengers.
Did it? Okay.
Joss Whedon, who produced this film, also produced the Avengers and directed it. The Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron.
So he has a crush on Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
Okay.
Who doesn't?
Gotcha.
Did you not see him? He plays Kurt, the jock tough guy who takes risks, but. He's actually a pretty smart dude in this, but the technicians behind the scenes are kind of pulling the strings to manipulate these folks into, or typecast them into a horror trope. Each character has to fit into that box type of thing. And it's so cool watching that happen.
So you have 5 different ones, right? You have like the jock.
Yes.
You have the whore. You have the fool. You have the virgin, and then you have the smart guy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that's the 5. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch each of them. Like they don't really start out that way, except for the fool, who's like always just you know a weed head or whatever. But yeah, it's fun to watch the technicians kind of pull those strings and make them into the stereotypical thing what they need to be for the ritual.
Fran Kranz plays Marty the Stoner. He provides much of the comedy in this. He figures out the setup of this movie eventually on his own. Did you feel like his comedy kind of hit for you, or?
I had more comedy from the
Technicians?
Sitterson and Hadley. The technicians.
I enjoyed seeing him. I thought some of his lines were funny.
Yeah.
Or dare.
Let's go dare.
All right. I dare you to make out with
Please sit, Dana. Please sit, Dana. Please sit, Dana.
that moose over there.
Marty, have you ever seen a moose before?
Yeah. The technicians down below were more funny for me.
Oh yeah, Kristen Conley is Dana the Virgin final girl. You have Anna Hutchinson, who is Jules. You called her the whore. I put the horny girl, but whatever. I was a little bit nicer than you were on that.
Well, the IMDb's not so nice on the synopsis. So.
Right. Yeah, Jesse Williams plays Holden. He is the smart guy. Man, this movie starts as a traditional horror film. It soon reveals itself to be a clever blend of horror satire and meta commentary on the horror genre itself. We kind of talked about that. Mm-hmm. The monsters galore. This film features a variety of monsters, which give a nod to classic horror films.
Yeah, it says here, they created 60 different types of monsters specifically for the Cabin in the Woods. You have like zombies, you have mermans, you have it even had like one of the evil doctors on, it had just doctors on it, like evil doctors, evil dentists.
There was like a version of Pinhead, but he had saws in his head and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just so cool to just go through and see that. And not only that, there's the whiteboard. There's this whiteboard at one point where it kind of shows all of the horrors that could have happened and took out these kids, these teenagers, these beautiful teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And the whiteboard where the facility staff bets on which monster will attack the cabin. There's so many references. I couldn't even catch them. You could push pause. There's so many horror tropes and creatures, some of which will never appear in the film. Deadites, stuff of the such. It is so hilarious. It's so good.
They even have like subgenres. You have like zombies, or then you have like, they were, a viral zombie, or like a bitten by a zombie, or
yes.
You read the rights. There was like Evil Dead
subgenres within the genres, and it's so cool. And like you said, a merman even. Despite its initial appearance as a standard horror film, this Cabin in the Woods received critical acclaim for its originality, humor, and deconstruction, obviously, of the horror genre. Whedon disliked horror cliches, so he stated that the movie was born out of that frustration that horror films were so predictable.
Wow, I didn't know that. I don't know. It took him and Goddard to write the script in like 3 days.
Yeah, they wrote it pretty quick.
That's crazy. Yeah, he must have just took all the stuff he hated from horror and just like wrote it down.
Yeah. So like on the surface, when you first watch this, you see Cabin in the Woods. Were you like, this is just the most basic horror film?
Yeah, I was thinking seen. Evil Dead right away.
Yeah,
or something along those lines.
You were like, this is a ripoff. This is going to be so basic. It's going to be some kids out into the woods.
Yeah.
And then you see something starting on the outside. You're like, this is something different. This might be a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think
deeper.
I think it starts with the technicians, doesn't it? It kind of shows them walking through and I'm like, what?
It's confusing.
It made me think of the Belkin experiment, or I forget what that movie's called, but it's about the people in the office get locked in and they have to kill each other.
Oh, cool. I've never seen it.
Yeah, Debmy did a show on it. It was pretty good, but I haven't seen it yet. But anyway, they get locked into this office building and they have to kill each other. And the last few that survive like win this game or something.
Oh,
so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, the elevator scene, one of the most iconic scenes in this film. A variety of monsters are unleashed upon the facility. The sequence required a massive amount of practical and CGI effects, making it one of the most complex scenes in the movie. One of the coolest, most compelling scenes as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's really fun to watch all the monsters break out and get out and attack everybody in the plant and stuff. Is pretty fun.
Yeah, and they didn't go cheap on the gore either. They went pretty hardcore, and it says practical effects. It looks like wherever they could, they used practical effects. There's a couple of times. There's a snake that is very CGI, and there's the hand at the end, which I saw them. I saw how they made that was practical.
Yeah.
So the snake took me out a little bit, but other than that, everything else looked really good. I was very surprised. It's a pretty gory film, even though I feel like the gore and the horror was not the main gist of the movie.
No, it wasn't. It was more focused on the comedy and the story, I think. It felt like for me, and I got lost a little bit when I'm really getting invested into this zombie families coming back to attack, and then I get ripped out of that world and thrown back into.
You're like, what's going on? Why are they doing this?
Yeah, like I wanted to see more of that, and then like I get ripped back down into the where they're partying and stuff, and it's like, okay, well, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie, but like, damn, I was getting kind of jerked around a little too much for me.
Yeah, I get you. I understand that. Lots of cultural references in here, reference to other genres in pop culture. For example, the mysterious facility in the reminiscent of the control room seen in like sci-fi and spy films. You've talked about that a little bit. It adds another layer to this. The significance of the cabin. The cabin is very Evil Dead, like you said. It looks like it was plucked right out of the Evil Dead, the first movie.
Like at one point, the cabin cellar door swings open. And like they all look back, and it's like, oh, it must have been the wind.
Yeah,
like,
there's so
The wind must have blown it open.
That makes what kind of sense?
many. Yeah, there's so many like. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Where they're pumping in these chemicals, trying to dumb them down to whatever trope, stereotype that they're supposed to be in. And Chris Hemsworth is like, must be the wind. I mean, it's so funny. And when they go down there and they each have like an artifact in their hand, and they're about you're like
that's what's going to set off the monster, whatever monster it's going to be, and everybody's betting on it.
The girl, the virgin girl, picks up the book and it goes, read it aloud.
So good.
It's so good. Oh man, do you have any more facts that you want to add to this?
No, the last one a little bit. There was like a thermal coffee mug bong in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
fully functional mug.
Oh, the one that the friends had, the stoner guy.
Yeah. We'll call him Shaggy from here on out because this group all reminds us of Scooby Doo and the wife. But that thing cost $5,000 to make.
I saw that.
That's pretty funny.
This film was on the shelf. It was filmed in 2009.
Yeah,
and they kind of ran out of money until Lionsgate bought the rights to distribute it, and then finally in 2012 it came out, which is probably smart because Chris Hemsworth was about to be in Avengers, and he was like, "This is launching his career and probably help launch this movie too." This is a classic horror movie.
Yeah, it seems to have a pretty good little following. I just think it's really fun and funny.
Yeah, it is. It is hilarious. This is one that you could watch 3 or 4 times and not catch everything.
Yeah. Well. Oh, yeah. All the references and stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of like hidden references that I didn't get even.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I cannot stress enough how funny Richard Jenkins and Bradford Whitley are in this film. Their comedic timing is so freaking good.
They have the best chemistry.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in. Here's my rating.
All right.
Cabin in the Woods is a brilliant mix of horror, comedy, and satire. I love the cast, especially their performances that elevated classic horror cliches. The scenes within the underground laboratory are my personal favorite. The movie hilariously exposes the tropes while delivering both laughs and genuine scares. The gore was satisfying. It's over the top, and the blend of horror elements kept me engaged. However, there was some CGI in the final scenes, felt a bit underwhelming to me compared to the practical effects throughout the film. Overall, it is a must-watch for horror fans who enjoy clever twist of the genre. I give Cabin in the Woods a 12 out of 13, Chris, which is a really good score. I love this movie.
That is a really good score. And I thought it was a pretty good movie too. So I viewed this as more of comedy than horror. And there are horror elements like the monsters and the kills, but overall the comedy elements shine through the most. But that's not to say it's not a good movie. I think it pokes fun at the horror genre stereotypes that we talked about in like more of a modern way. The cool special effects, except for a few that you had mentioned, and the acting is fine enough. I think there's a few loose ends that don't really get explained, and the jerking back and forth from like getting me invested into zombie kills and then yanking me back down to the funny bit was kind of jarring at times. I'm going to give it I agree with you. I think it is a must-watch for horror fans, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 13 donuts. I think you definitely should check it out. Cabin in the Woods. It's really fun.
Yeah, and great score. Great score. I agree. I agree with that. We watched it on Prime Video.
Peacock.
Peacock. Okay, that's where we saw it. So as long as you have a subscription to Peacock, it's on there right now. It's only about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge investment. And I don't know if my mom would like this. I don't even know if my wife would like this. You almost need to be a horror fan to like this.
Yeah, it's not for the person who just occasionally watches horror or anything like that. Yeah. It's more of a someone like us or our subscribers and stuff
Yeah.
that really like the horror genre,
Yeah.
it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it already.
It pokes fun of it, and it kind of answers some of those questions. You're like, why do they always split up? You know what I mean? So it kind of answers all those questions.
Maybe
Like,
it's Hadley and Sitterson down there turning knobs, man.
all right, guys. So go watch this movie. We're about to go scene by scene and spoil this thing. Here-
Let's do it.
In an underground laboratory, engineers Gary Sitterson and Steve Hadley discuss a mysterious ritual after a similar operation in Stockholm just ended in failure, leaving only their facility and one in Japan to undertake the process, and then with the latter holding a perfect record.
Yeah, Japan, they always win, right?
They always win. They're the best. You can always count on Japan.
Yeah, so basically these regions have to perform this rite, this ritual, and the only two that haven't failed so far is the U.S. and Japan.
Yeah.
And so the USA guys, Hadley and Sitterson, they're like, we'll get it if they don't. It's fine. We'll make it happen. And at the beginning of this, I was kind of uncertain where we were going.
Yeah.
Because I was like cabin in the woods, and we're starting in like some laboratory down and underground or something. So it was kind of a weird way to start it. But once you get into it, it's really fun.
I feel like it wasn't. I can't remember the first comedy aspect of this, or where it was just like, this is going to be hilarious. And it might. I feel like it's when they put that redneck on speakerphone.
Mordecai.
Yeah,
or whatever
and
his
he's
name
like,
was.
yeah, and then they just laughed at him. I was like, this is a different movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's when you realize, like. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead here. This is some type of facility. Does it show at this point the Japanese ring girl or whatever it is?
It shows them starting that.
Oh, okay.
They're like that's underway.
Oh, okay.
So like the horror in Japan is going on. So yeah,
and it's very blue, like Japanese horror from the early 2000s.
and it's like the typical. It looks like there's a school teacher in the middle of the room, and there's kids around.
So funny. American college students Dana Polk, Jules Loudon, Kurt Vaughn, Holden McCree, and Marty Mikowski are spending their weekend at Kurt's cousin's house, his cabin in the woods. From the lab, Sitterson and Hadley remotely control the cabin and manipulate the students by intoxicating them with mind-altering drugs.
Yeah, as we've mentioned before, and I'll mention it again because it needs saying, the scenes with Sitterson and Hadley are just the best. And these characters reminded my wife a lot of like Scooby-Doo. You have like the stoner guy, you have the brave guy like Fred, you had like the two girls, Daphne, and Velma.
Yeah.
And then you had like the smart guy. You could just throw him in as Scooby-Doo or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, they're very stereotypical. And at first you're really just like, man, we're just going to get just the most bland movie.
Yeah.
It's going to just be another one of those run of the mill, but it really has the cool twist of those guys in the lab controlling everything that really makes it fun.
It feels just like a slasher out in the
Oh,
woods.
yeah.
And when's that going to start or whatever?
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. I'm such a horror fan.
Yeah,
that
like, I
I'm
don't
such
mind
a
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm such a horror fan that I wasn't like, I was like, okay, let's kill these people. You know what I mean? I was like, let's do it. Let's do it the old way. Let's hijack some nuclear weapons and hold the world hostage, as Dr. Evil would say.
Right.
It starts off hilarious. You got the virgin girl. She's just getting packed in her underwear, just like a teen horror film would. Like, of course, she's just standing around in her underwear.
Yeah, in front of this corner house with like all the windows open, right?
Yes. And you have Chris Hemsworth character. He comes in and it shows that he's very smart. He recommends a book to the virgin girl. I can't keep these names straight, but
Sure.
so I'm gonna do the best I can. To the virgin girl, it's actually more obscure than the one that she was talking about to impress this professor that broke her heart or whatever.
Yeah.
So it shows that he's pretty smart and that these chemicals coming from this underground laboratory are pumped in to make him dumber.
Yeah.
It also talks about the blonde, the whore, as you called her, that she just recently dyed her hair blonde, and they put something in that dye to dumb her down a little bit as well.
And then when they're driving away, like there's somebody on the roof, like they're leaving, they're heading to the cabin, and crap like that. Yeah,
yeah, like a
special ops.
Yeah,
or
special ops
something's
guy
going
up there. In the cabin's cellar, the group finds bizarre objects, including the diary of Patience Buckner, a cabin resident abused by her sadistic family. Dana recites
Of course she does.
incantations from the diary and inadvertently summons the zombified Buckner family.
And there's something in Latin.
Okay, I'm drawing a line. Do not read the Latin. What the
She would do that, wouldn't she? I love how Hadley, like, this is where they're like kind of taking bets, right?
Yes.
And Hadley really wants to see a merman.
Yeah.
He's like, just.
He had the conch in his
Oh,
hands.
you know, in a couple more minutes, who knows what might have happened.
He had the conch shell in his hands. Like, it was so close.
It's so good.
The winner, it's the Buckners, ladies and gentlemen.
It shows him like getting into this cabin, and they talk to this redneck backwoods guy at a gas station. We kind of talked about that a little bit. And he calls the scientist, and they make fun of him. They put him on speakerphone. He's like, "Am I on speakerphone?" And it's a really hilarious scene in there. But they're going and picking out their rooms. The guy that's supposed to be the smart guy and hook up with the virgin, he sees that his room has a double mirror behind.
Yeah,
this.
it's like a one-way mirror.
Yeah, behind this crazy painting, and they end up switching rooms because he's a sweet guy.
He's a nice guy. He's a good one.
They end up that night, like you said, going down to the cellar, and they all pick up. There's like, in Evil Dead, there's like, there's like the video, there's the audio tape and a couple things down there. This has everything down there.
Yeah, it's like an audio reel. It has a book. It has like a ballerina.
Yeah,
thing. It has a conch
there's
shell.
there's no getting out of this basement without messing up something very badly.
And so basically, no matter like whenever somebody does something, either turns the little play box on the ballerina or blows the conch shell or reads the incantation, something's going to happen where it summons one of these monsters. So that's what's fun. And I guess there was like a lot more than we thought. Like they only picked up 5 things, but like as you see on the whiteboard, there's like hundreds to choose from, or like
and through this, there's this rookie agent in the background of the laboratory who's kind of like. He's moving the plot along by asking questions that you and I might ask if you were there. You're like, so like, why are y'all making bets on this when it's already set up?
Yeah, like everybody's gonna die. Why are you taking bets
and
on?
They're kind of like, well, yeah. So we manipulate a little bit with the chemicals and stuff like that, but ultimately they're making the choices.
Yeah.
So we don't pick the choices for them, which I thought was and it was cool that they used that brand new agent to ask all these questions and kind of be the source of when it shows that they're so cold-hearted, but in the end it reveals that they're kind of the heroes.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're holding the evil from destroying the earth.
Yeah.
That's why
a few people have to die.
That's what I'm saying. That's why they're so calloused about it. That's why this is just like, to them, this is
another
like
day.
Yeah,
It's another Monday.
Yeah, we're gonna save the world. They feel like they're heroes, you know, and so that's really cool. But it's hilarious when she picks up the incantation. It's like, read it aloud. You're just like rolling your eyes. It's so funny.
Yeah,
and again, you see the whiteboard. They're making bets. Everybody lost, and it says like redneck. What was it like?
Redneck zombified family or something. And so that's different than just regular chemical plant zombie.
Yeah, she was so sad about that. Hadley releases pheromones to induce Kurt and Jules to have sex outside. They are attacked by the zombies, and Jules is decapitated while Kurt escapes. Marty discovers concealed surveillance equipment in his room before being stabbed and dragged off by a zombie. The lab workers learn that the site in Japan also failed, meaning that the American right is humanity's last hope.
そして今、キコの魂はこのカエルの中で幸せに生き続けていく。
So really briefly, Marty is definitely not alive still. He definitely, died because the zombie drug him through the window, and he's like the stoner fool. So he's definitely dead.
Oh, definitely.
Never to come back up. And the Japan horror pit, dude, that is the best part.
Oh, it's
I
so
loved
funny.
it. It's like so Japan, the ritual fails, right? And there's like all these kids dancing around.
They
this
turned it into
bowl.
a frog.
They turned it. It's like now the evil spirit will live forever in this frog, and like the kids are cheering and stuff. And then Hadley is really mad. He's
He's flipping them off. F you, F you, F you. and then he's like, "How hard is it to kill 9-year-olds?"
Yeah, it's got to be super easy if you're like this evil teacher thing. Like, it's so funny.
Oh, it's so good. It is so good. And so they're kind of standing around, and that horror trope of boobs and horror.
Sure.
They're all standing around, all the scientists. And they're like watching.
They're watching the striptease. Scene
and it kind of alludes to the fact that this is not just for us; it's for the evil downstairs.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, they're the ones wanting this. You know, so it's part of what they want. Each time one dies, they pull a lever, which like breaks this vial of
And like blood goes down into this like ancient stone looking thing
and kind of like
fills up. Yeah.
Feeds them or does something with it. It keeps them down there.
Yeah, some kind of ritual. And until the last one is done, they're going to come up and destroy the world possibly if this ritual is not done properly.
Yeah, there's an order to it. And it's just like every horror movie you ever watched.
And because the virgin has to die last.
The virgin final girl has to die last. And so, like we said, they just I thought it was a cool scene where they took that rusty saw and cut her head off. The whore, the blonde girl.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so good. And then Chris Hemsworth like kind of runs back, and they don't believe. They're like, no.
Yeah.
He goes, they killed her, and then the big redneck knocks on the door and throws her head.
So like you definitely know it really happened. Snap out of it.
I thought that was a cool scene too. Kurt, Holden, and Dana attempt to escape in their RV, but Sitterson triggers a tunnel collapse to block them. That was like right at the last minute too.
I love the scene where Sitterson's like running through everybody trying to escape. Because if you realize they broke the vial when the Marty character dragged out of the window, you think he's dead, right? Mm-hmm. So they broke the blood vial, and then like the earth like shakes and stuff. So it's like something's, you know, they think that like these ancient gods below are happy, but it's like, no, something's wrong. Like he didn't really die, but they broke the glass anyway.
They're enjoying this down there.
But that's not the case.
That's not the case. Kurt, so they get in this RV, and Sitterson triggers a tunnel collapse to block them because they are the world's last hope.
Oh yeah,
like I said, Japan, they didn't get it. They failed, and so did Stockholm. So America is it at this point. And all 3 teenagers. Or 4
of who's left.
3 teenagers that are left. They're on an RV and they're about to escape, and they're going through this tunnel. And you see Sitterson. He is running through the lab as quick as he can, and to get these wires together to keep them where they're at. To make sure that this happens. Kurt attempts to jump a ravine on his motorcycle to seek help on the other side, but crashes into a force field and falls to his death. That is a hilarious scene as well.
Yeah, and it really takes out like the strongest one there. Like you're kind of like hoping that he's like the strong.
He gives a hilarious speech.
He's kind of like
We're back with cops and choppers and large guns, and those things are gonna pay.
Ash at this point, where he's like the strongest male character. But he gives this hilarious speech.
He's Thor, and he's like, and he's sitting there on his motorcycle. And he's like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get help, and I'm gonna bring choppers and helicopters.
We're gonna take all them people out.
He goes, it's for Jules. Is that what he says?
Yeah. We're going to bring them back for Jules, and we're going to kill every last one of them.
And then he just jumps and it is so good. Dana realized that their experience is staged and controlled. So she's starting to catch on just like the stoner did. Mm-hmm. Holden is killed by a zombie while driving the RV, causing it to crash into the lake. But Dana manages to escape. And everybody at this point is just... celebrating. Yeah,
absolutely. That part you're thinking of is coming up next, and we'll talk about that. Yeah,
let me go ahead and just read that part. The lab employees, seeing that Dana is the only survivor, celebrate the success of the right, but then discover Marty is still alive. But go ahead and tell that.
So real quick, there's a part where everyone thinks that America won, right? And so Sitterson is really just, Hadley is really just talking about. Like, man, I was really getting attached to her. She has such a strong spirit, and she's really, embodies the American spirit in this right. And then Tequila,
she's got so much heart. You think of all the pain and the Tequila is my lady.
When I see Tequila come in, he's like, Tequila is my lady, and then he just walks off and starts partying with everybody else.
It is so good.
Because this, at this point, is like, it is an office party now.
Yes.
Because they won. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
They saved the world.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about, what they're going to do this weekend.
It's so good. And in the background, she's still struggling with this zombie redneck. She's just like fighting for her life. And they're over here talking about overtime and benefits, just like like it's a 9 to 5 paper company. Like we're watching The Office or something like that.
Right.
It is so good. It is so well done. But then the red phone rings. And when a red phone rings, that's typically not a good thing. Hadley takes it.
Everybody stops like partying. Turn the music fucking music
This
off.
is from the director, right? Downstairs.
Yeah.
And he or she is like, Marty is still alive.
Yeah.
And she better not die before he does.
And that's urgent because she's about to die now.
Right. So it's not a question of whether like they're going to die because they're both going to die.
Yeah.
But he better die first.
Oh yeah.
Marty takes Dana to a hidden elevator that he has discovered. She's getting beat up, bear trap, all this good stuff, and he comes out of nowhere and just stabs
Saves her. Yeah.
So Marty, they go to this elevator. So you find out that those zombie rednecks were pumped up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To the ground through this elevator, and they're going down. They descend into the lab. They discover a large collection of different monsters and cages. Dana correlates them with the objects in the cabin cellar and realizes that the objects determine which monsters were released. Cornered by security personnel, the pair release all the monsters, that sounds smart, which wreak havoc and slaughter the staff. Hadley is killed while Dana accidentally stabs Sitterson.
I love I think first of all, it's cool to see all the monsters come out.
Yes.
As they're traveling down this elevator into the heart of this lab.
Yeah.
They can see all of the other monsters through these glass elevator things. And it's like, holy crap, like all of the monsters are here. You got, the creature from the Black Lagoon's probably there.
Yeah.
Big snakes.
It's so cool seeing them.
A big tree comes out later.
Yeah, the Evil Dead tree is there. The anaconda.
Even the Deadites are.
Yeah, Deadites, Pinhead.
Yeah.
There's a unicorn that stabs somebody.
It had unicorn on there, and I was like, why is there a unicorn? So, like, if that happened, how would that have played out in the cabin? Like, you can make so many sequels for this movie, right?
I know. There's so much you could do with it.
One of them just said, like, pumpkins.
I want to know. I want to know.
I want to see it.
I want to know.
It'd be fun. And then I love how Hadley, he always wanted to see the merman in action. And then something happens where he gets put and he's by himself, and then like the merman comes crawling towards him. There's this smoke and everything, and then there's like and what's so funny is, gosh, like he's holding in the beginning of the film, he's like, man, he was holding the conch shell. He was so close. So you could tell he's been working at this job for probably 20 years. Yeah, and he's every year. Yeah, I want to see the merman. And then you as the audience member, you're sitting there like, I want to see a merman too. I want to see what he does. And the merman through the smoke comes crawling up like a fish out of water, and gets to Hadley, and when he gets to him, he starts eating his face, and the blood from him goes through his blood hole, his blowhole that's on the back. It's so good, and you can see Hadley kind of like smiling.
Yeah,
he's like, finally,
this is the way it's supposed to be.
It. Yeah. Even in death, Hadley's hilarious.
Oh, I love it so much. Gosh, it is just havoc. This final scene is absolute havoc. There's blood all over the walls,
and that's a lot where the CGI where you're talking to, where you kind of get taken out of it a little.
Some of it. So yeah, but I see where they tried. Even that merman was real.
Yeah, they made great.
They went and got a real merman from a lake, and but. That was real. There was that unicorn was real. There was just a lot of things. Yeah.
A lot of practical, but the one CGI thing, the snake.
The snake.
You think they could have got the snake like they did in Anaconda or something?
Anaconda. Have you seen Anaconda lately? It's awful.
It's been a minute.
It is the worst CGI.
It's been a good 20
Yeah, when I was a kid and I watched Anaconda with Jennifer Lopez, I was just like, and Ice Cube, I was like, man, how'd they get that to do? How'd they do that?
It's a well-trained snake.
Yeah, you watch it now, and I was like, oh, God. It looks like Toy Story meets...
What are you doing watching Anaconda in like the 2020s, man?
It's like when Mary Poppins came out and like back in the day, people were like, those are really dancing penguins. We like really like bought into that. Anyway, it's hard to... some of the CGI is a little off, but I'm just not a big CGI fan.
Yeah, sure.
I love practical effects. Dana and Marty discover an ancient temple where they are confronted by the director. Explains that the worldwide annual rituals of human sacrifice are held to appease the Ancient Ones, a group of cruel subterranean deities. Each region has its own ritual, and the American ritual involves the sacrifice of 5 archetypes: the whore, the athlete, the scholar, the fool, and the virgin. The order is arbitrary as long as the whore dies first and the virgin dies last.
I like how Dana's like virgin, and the director's like, we work with what
We work with what we got. That's so good. So the director is
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. So
and we were going to do Alien this week.
Yeah, we were going to do Alien. We switched up and did Cabin in the Woods. So I feel like the Alien needed a little bit more work and a little bit. That's just such a.
It needs more reverence than we were able to give it.
Yeah, we didn't have the time to give it the reverence that it deserved. But this is a great movie.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that she was tucked away there in the end of this. And she does great. She's always great. Her voice over the PA system is so classic. The director urges Dana to kill Marty to complete the ritual, as all other rituals failed that year. Dana is attacked by a werewolf while Patience kills the director. Marty proceeds to kill all except Dana, deciding that humanity is not worth saving. Dana and Marty share a joint, and the temple floor collapses as a giant hand emerges from the ground, destroying the facility and the cabin.
So we're all doomed. Thanks a lot, Dana.
Thanks a lot, Dana.
Marty.
What were y'all doing?
And cool practical effect with the hand at the end. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
How they did that.
Yeah, I watched some of the making of that, and they actually did. Did you see it? Like they made like a model and stuff, but they did have to CGI the hand.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, but they did the ground and stuff. They tried the best with that. I mean, it is what it is.
That's cool. Oh, and a cool ending to a funny movie. And man, you could really Cabin in the Woods too. Like, just give me just a different variety. Like, you know, get a few monsters in there or something. Like, I think you could really do that.
Yeah. Going into this, if you've never seen it, it's. I mean, like again, we just spoiled the whole thing. But I mean, say if you're a horror fan and you have never seen this, you're gonna have a smile on your face the entire time. Yeah. I did. I laughed by myself. I watched it by myself and laughed out loud.
You'll still have fun with it while you watch it. Like, it'll still be funny to you. You'll have a little bit of the horror in there. I mean, it does have some good horror bits, but you know, you may be taken out like I was a little bit, but it's still really fun.
Really fun, really good. This is a classic. You should put it on your shelf. You should own this.
Yeah.
It's Halloween coming up. It's fall coming up.
Oh, yeah.
This is one that needs to be played again.
It could be in the rotation.
Absolutely. Look at we're coming up on 1 year, Chris. 1 year of doing Blood and Donuts. And our first episode, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, and I'm back in the studio.
Back in the studio. It's so good having you.
Yeah, man, thanks.
It makes it that much better. But our first episode, which was at this table right here, we did Terrifier. And we love Terrifier. Thought it was a great movie. And we, again, like this, it was fun. It was gory. And he cut some girl in half upside down. Mm-hmm. We are going to watch live Terrifier 2.
Yeah, like right now.
Yeah. But y'all are not going to see it right now. And we are going to show you our reaction to that bloody mess. We wanted to go ahead and knock this out, get this done before Terrifier 3 comes out really soon here in the next couple of months.
October, yeah.
Yeah, so I look forward to doing that. Look for that, as it should be coming out pretty soon.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.